who should really be in the playoffs right now if the season ended today. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Whether you agree with me, want to talk trash with me, or talk trash to me, you're going to enjoy this channel. This is not a I'm right and you're wrong type of video. This is just giving you information to make up your own mind. So for the sake of argument, we're going to use the top 8 teams in the current AP Top 25 poll, because the new playoff poll hasn't come out, and we definitely can't go by last week's. So let's start with number 8, BYU. They are undefeated, 9-0. But they don't get a lot of recognition because of their schedule, who they play. So I went back and broke it down. First of all, they average 47.6 points per game. That's 5th in the nation. They allow 13.9 points per game. That's 4th in the nation. They're top 5 in points per game and allowing points per game. It's really good. 333 passing yards per game, 204 rushing yards a game. Overall, 538 offensive yards per game. On the defensive side, they allow 204 passing yards a game. They allow 88 rushing yards a game. And altogether, they only allow 292 offensive yards a game. But the big argument is their schedule. So I went back and broke it down. So they're 9-0, right? They're 3-0 against teams above 500. 1-0 against the team at 500, and 5-0 against teams below 500. So, yeah, the majority of their schedule is below 500. You combine all those records, and the combined record of their opponents, 31-41. That's 10 games under 500. The biggest one that hurt them was Texas State, though. You take them out, and that's much closer. Now we have to move on to how bad they beat them, since their strength of schedule isn't all that great. So their combined score, 428 to 125. So yeah, they played some crap teams, but dadgum, they have dominated them. Let's move on to Cincinnati. They're also 8-0, number 7 in the AP poll. They score 40.9 points per game. That's 12th in the country, and allow 15 points per game. That's 5th, so their stats are really high. Well, let's look at their actual schedule. They're 4-0 against teams above 500, 1-0 against teams at 500, and 3-0 against teams below 500. So they actually play more teams that have a winning record than not, or even at 500. That's really good, actually. 289 passing yards a game, 243 rushing yards a game, so they run the ball really well. 473 offensive yards a game. On the defensive side, they allow 195 passing yards a game. They allow 112 rushing yards a game. And altogether, they only allow 308 offensive yards a game. So if you combine the record of their opponents, it's 33-30. So overall, winning record if you combine everything. So let's look at how bad they beat their opponents. A total score of 327 to 120. Cincinnati is for real, guys. Number 6 in the AP Top 25, Florida. They actually have a loss. They're 7-1. 43.4 points per game. That's number 11. But their defense, not very good. 25.9 points per game is what they allow. That's 44th in the country. 396 passing yards a game, 139 rushing yards a game, and altogether 509 offensive yards a game. They allow 243 passing yards a game. That's really where they struggle on defense. They allow 143 rushing yards a game. That's still not good. Altogether, they allow 386.9 offensive yards a game. So basically, 387. Let's go back and look at their schedule. They're 2-1 against teams above 500. That's not great. 4-0 against teams below 500, and 1-0 against teams at 500. So, number 1, they play more teams below 500, and number 2, they're only 2-1. I know one of those was Alabama, that's where they got blown out, but that's not a good resume right there, guys. So, if you combine their scores, it's 347 to 207. It's not bad. If you combine their opponents' records, 28 and 36. So their opponents are actually well below 500. Now, if that doesn't raise an eyebrow, I don't know what will. Number 5 in the AP poll right now, Texas A&M. They score 31.4 points per game. That's 49th, not good at all. And they allow 22.4 points per game. That's 25th in the nation. That's not great either. 233 passing yards a game, 185 rushing yards a game. Altogether, 418 offensive yards a game. Not all that great on offense. They allow 240 passing yards a game. They allow 87 rushing yards a game. And altogether, they allow 328 offensive yards a game. Let's look at their opponents. 1-1 against teams above 500. 5-0 against teams below 500. They've played way more teams that have losing records than with winning records. And the two teams that they have, 1-1. Win against Florida, that's great. Loss, blowout against Alabama. So their total score against their opponents, 220 to 157. That's not a huge gap. And if you combine their opponents' records, 25-31. So, yeah, they have not played a great schedule. Not a good argument for Texas A&M. Number 4, Clemson. 46.1 points per game. That's number 6. They allow 19.2 points per game. That's 18th. Great stats. 362 passing yards a game, 149 rushing yards a game. Really good. 512 offensive yards a game. Great offense. They allow 196 passing yards a game. They allow 102 rushing yards a game. Altogether, they allow 298.6 offensive yards a game. Under 300. Really good. Let's look at who they've played. 3-1 against teams above 500. 2-0 against teams at 500. And 3-0 against teams below 500. So they've only played 3 teams with losing records. Not bad at all. If you combine all those records, 39-35. So the opponents that they've played combined, winning record. Total score they've had this year, 415 to 173. And that's including the Notre Dame loss. That's really impressive. Number 3, Ohio State. They're 4-0. 45.2 points per game. That's 8th. And they allow 26 points per game. 45th. Not a good defense at all, guys. 302 passing yards a game. 233 rushing yards a game. That's a lot of rushing yards. 535 offensive yards a game. They allow 290 passing yards a game. That's not good. They allow 98.5 rushing yards a game. That's a good rush defense. Altogether, they allow 388 offensive yards a game. Let's look at their opponents. 1-0 against teams above 500. That was against Indiana. 3-0 against teams below 500. So way more teams with losing records. You combine those records, 9-14. Yikes. You combine the score, 181 to 104. That does not impress me at all. I'm sorry, Buckeye fans. It just doesn't. You have Justin Fields and then the rest of your team. Not good. Number 2 on the list, Notre Dame. 9-0. 36.9 points per game. That's 25th. And they allow 16.7 points per game. That's 10th. That's respectable. Not going to lie. 234 passing yards a game. 229 rushing yards a game. Very balanced. 463 offensive yards a game. So still a lot of yards, but very, very balanced. On defense, they allow 218 passing yards a game. They allow 85 rushing yards a game. Altogether, they allow 303 offensive yards a game. Also, really good right at that 300 mark. So let's look at who they've played. They're 3-0 against teams above 500, including against Clemson, even though they didn't have Trevor Lawrence. 1-0 against teams at 500, and 5-0 against teams below 500. So they've played more teams with losing records. You combine those teams' records, 36-46. 10 games under 500. You combine the score, 332 to 150. That's still respectable, though. That's better than some of the other numbers that I've seen. Number 1, Alabama. 48.5 points per game. That's 4th in the nation. And they allow 18.5 points per game. That's 16th in the nation. Excellent. 358 passing yards a game. 177 rushing yards a game. 535 offensive yards a game. Juggernaut offense. They allow 238 passing yards a game. They allow 119 rushing yards a game. Altogether, they allow 357 offensive yards a game. Could be better, but still not bad. Let's look at who they've played. 4-0 against teams above 500. 3-0 against teams below 500, and 1-0 against teams at 500. So it's about even. That's not bad. You combine the records, 32-30. That's respectable. You combine the score, 388-148. That is the number one team in the nation. I will give them that. But if you go back and look at what I've said about the other teams, it will make you raise your eyebrows. So if you think there's no bias going on in that playoff committee room, you are dead wrong if you're going by the numbers. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.